Hello, my beautiful soul family. I hope you are all having a wonderful and very blessed holiday season. I know it feels like it's been a lifetime since I've been on here to connect with you guys, and my deepest apologies for it having been so long. And I'm actually not coming on to do a reading with you all this evening. I'm actually here because I'd like to sit and have a chat. I've been procrastinating for far too long now about opening up and sharing my story with you all. And even now, I'm not exactly prepared to share my whole story with you guys. I really don't want to have to sit in front of this camera all night. But I at least want to share a very large and significant part of it with you now, because this is something that I strongly feel I need to draw attention to. A situation that I've been involved in for too many years now that cannot continue. It's just not okay. So if you all bear with me. Happy New Year's. Cheers. I will be drinking and vaping. There may possibly be some cursing. So this is by no means a child appropriate video. But anyway. So the reason I haven't posted a video or reading in so long, one is because I have been moving around quite a bit. For those of you who aren't already aware, I am on felony probation. I have been for over 2.5 years now. It's caused me to have to jump around from place to place far more often than I'd like, for the sake of excuse me, I'm sorry, for the sake of being able to keep myself clean, sober, and focused, as well as protecting myself from very toxic situations and individuals as an empath and a psychic. My whole life I've seemed to have been a magnet for toxic relationships and situations. I don't want to say toxic people, because in spite of everything and in spite of who and how other people are, I would like to take responsibility for my own actions, my own reactions to a lot of what I've gone through, what I've come up against, and people I've associated with and come into relationship with over the years. I don't claim to be a saint by any means. However, the situation I would like to draw attention to at this point in time, I currently, and for most of my life, have resided in Onslow County, North Carolina. I was born in Jacksonville at Onslow Memorial Hospital. I grew up between there and Hubert, Swansboro, Emerald Isle area most of my life, aside from my adolescent years where I took any and every opportunity to escape that I could. However, I always seemed to end up sucked right back into this fucking shithole. But I digress. So, just recently, I violated probation. I was picked up by my probation officer on Tuesday morning, which was December 7th, I do believe, with a warrant, and I was placed back in jail, where I spent about 11 to 12 days, so just shy of 2 weeks in Onslow County Jail. To backtrack just a tad, for many years, my now estranged husband and I used to sell a lot of weed. Back in the day when weed was still very, very illegal and poorly looked upon. And by the time we stopped selling weed, the law enforcement in this county had tried for several years to apprehend us and never could. When they finally thought they had, we were no longer selling weed. I, unfortunately, chose to stay blind to a lot of the, how should I put this? Extracurricular activities and distribution that my husband was still involved in. I should say that I was in very much a codependent energy and lifestyle, and naive to the point where I really believed that what I didn't know couldn't hurt me. Oh, how wrong I was. Well, as I have had a very unfortunate and repetitive habit of, I put my faith and trust in all the wrong people, and I allowed myself to turn a blind eye to a lot that was going on around me. And I came to a point where the police raided my home. A friend of ours who was hired to help renovate our bathroom, who was involved in the distribution of heroin, methamphetamines, pills, and other things, I'm sure, was apprehended in my home. The police destroyed my home, did thousands of dollars worth of damage to my vehicles. They could not find any evidence against my husband and I. However, and this was not the first time, they tried to recruit me to cooperate with their narcotics department, which I adamantly refused repeatedly. I don't pass any judgment on anyone for the decisions they make. We're all individuals. We all have our own individual journey and path to tread. However, part of mine has never been being a snitch, so to speak. And so moving on. Upon my refusal to cooperate, as well as the fact that I had more than enough grounds to open up a lawsuit against the Onslow County Police Department, which of course they didn't like, along with a lot of very obnoxiously spoken words from myself and, at the time, my 4-year-old son. I made them look like complete fucking idiots, and they didn't like that very much either. So, to skip ahead quite a bit, because, there's a lot more to this story that we're just not going to touch on right now. they eventually managed to get me incarcerated on a failure to appear. My first time being in any kind of trouble and facing any kind of serious charges. I spent a month in jail, including my 31st birthday. The day they took me to court was the day they finally managed to break me. The entire month, I was beyond terrified for the safety and well-being of my 2 children. And I was desperate. I was desperate to get out, to get home, to get back to my kids, to take care of them, and make sure they were safe. They originally had no case. The lead detective on my case is no longer a lead detective, but is actually incarcerated. Imagine that. But because I was scared and I was desperate, they offered me a plea deal. It was either I could take their plea deal, or I could wait possibly another 3.5 months in jail to go to trial and represent myself, in which case they would have had to dismiss any and all charges and let me walk the fuck out because they didn't have a case. But like an idiot, I did take their plea deal. I pled guilty to marijuana paraphernalia possession, which was rightfully my fault, my charge, my responsibility. I also ended up pleading guilty to felony heroin possession charge, which was not my charge. But anyway, I was released on probation, which should have been a year's worth of probation, pending I had no violations, transgressions against the terms of my probation, and my record would have been expunged. My very first probation appointment, I was 2 days out of jail. And I was first violated for a dress code violation. I wasn't wearing a bra. After having spent a month in jail, and all of my closest friends having robbed me in my home of everything of value that I had. I was honestly, I didn't even own a bra at that point. My probation officer was lucky I showed up dressed. Okay? So, personally, and I know this for a fact, I really think she was just trying that I didn't show up to her office with 4 asses on my chin like her. And she then proceeded to hit me with 5 more violations within the next 5 months. So, my 99.6 was revoked, which means my year probation and expunged record was out the window. They restarted and doubled my probation. And I am now a felon. My 2 years of probation would have been up this December. The past 2 years of my life has been a struggle every day, simply to survive and maintain a stable place to stay, maintain a job, while also jumping through their fucking flaming hoops and complying with all of their all of their stipulations and regulations. This most recent incarceration actually occurred after, I would say, December 6th. It was a Monday. They were in the process of transferring me to a new probation officer. My current probation officer was transferring to another county. So, I had no idea who my new officer was going to be. I had not yet had another scheduled appointment set, to my knowledge. And on December 6th, I received a phone call from my new probation officer saying I had missed my scheduled appointment for that morning. In 2.5 years, I have not missed a single appointment. However, this particular day, he called, claimed that I didn't show up. I didn't have a ride at the drop of a hat to get to the probation office. I told him I would work out what I could as soon as I was able. I texted him later that afternoon, let him know that I didn't have a ride, but he could at least give me till the weekend to get a paycheck. I'd make sure I had an Uber first thing Monday morning. Well, Tuesday morning, he shows up, pulls into my driveway. Sure enough, I'm sitting in my garage with the garage door wide ass open, and I'm smoking a bowl of weed. And he already has a warrant for my arrest. So he takes me to Onslow County Jail. They book me. I'm already aware that there is a 7-day quarantine because of COVID. They swab tested me that evening. It was a rapid test, came back negative. My 7-day quarantine turned into 10 days. And my poor cellmate had to endure the same. Kind of backtracking a little bit. So, for all those years that my husband and I sold weed, and they hoped and prayed and tried to catch us selling weed and never could. And then for all those 4 separate occasions, at least 4 separate occasions, they asked me to cooperate with their narcotics department, and I obnoxiously refused. I'm gonna go and lay it out there for you. Yeah, I basically told them I'm not a fucking snitch and you can suck my dick and rot in hell. Yeah, didn't like that. They were fucking with me. They've been fucking with me. They've been fucking with me for a long time. Because I made them look like the jackasses that they are. And, yeah, they weren't happy about that. So, after my 10 days of quarantine and my couple of grievance reports, one of those being their tampering with inmate medication. Yeah. On several different occasions, they brought my cellmate the improper medication at the improper time of day. And on the last instance that this occurred, and she actually refused to take the medication they gave her until they double checked it. Yes, I made a very obnoxious complaint about the fact that it is not okay. It is not okay that they are tampering with and or stealing psychological medications and then subbing them out for other meds and giving them to unsuspecting inmates who already have psychological issues. I was actually written back by the lieutenant, who stated that I was not on medication, so how could I possibly be aware of what other inmates should be receiving when the nursing staff was the only one who had any access to the medication. So I responded that because I was not on any mind-altering medication, and I was pretty clear-headed, it was rather obvious that I was observing what was taking place, and that perhaps they should check their fucking medical staff. Because this was not okay. This is not right. And yeah, I didn't have a response for that. The day that I bonded out and they released me, just so happened that I was exiting the block as MedPass was coming in. The MedPass nurse took one look at me and refused to do her MedPass rounds on that block. Said she would go to the other block and come back later. She didn't want to be in the same room with me. Anyway, I digress. So after bonding out, and finally upon speaking to my now current probation officer, who failed to do his own job and actually schedule the most recent appointment with me, proceeded to act as if I should have already known my next scheduled appointment date, which I didn't. This is only the second time I'd ever spoke to him on the phone. Excuse me. So anyway, I actually had to, I texted him back after the phone call to confirm said scheduled appointment date, which he never actually called to schedule with me. That was to cover my own ass. But anyway, upon both of my stays at Ed Brown's Hotel, is what we call it, I've come into contact with several young women. I've heard their stories. I've felt their pain. My heart is broke for them. And here's where I get to my point. Here in Onslow County, North Carolina, the human trafficking, the drug distribution, and the law enforcement involvement is beyond out of control. Several local drug dealers have been apprehended through Operation Iron Rooster over the past couple of years. Many of them have spent very little, if any, time incarcerated. They're arrested, interrogated, and then coerced into cooperating with Jacksonville and Onslow County Narcotics Department. They're forced into what's the word? Criminal informants. There you go. They are coerced into becoming criminal informants. The majority of them end up staying right in the same lifestyle from which they were apprehended. And it's only a matter of time before they're either imprisoned or they die. Either from overdose on certain product or by questionable or mysterious means. That is very rarely, if ever, actually investigated and justified by law enforcement. The girls that these drug dealers employ, meaning they dope them up and coerce or force them into prostitution, or they just drug them and make money off of allowing men, often Marines, to come in and do what they will with their drugged, lifeless bodies. And then half of their customers, we'll say, end up being apprehended, coerced into being criminal informants. Several of these actually end up getting off the dope, getting off the drugs, and then only moments, days, weeks later, mysteriously end up overdosing on the same said drugs. Even though I may be paranoid, that doesn't mean these motherfuckers are out to get me. And that goes for a lot of other people that I've known, associated with, heard of, seen. There's something seriously fucking wrong going on in this town, in this whole county. The police are putting bad drugs on the streets through their criminal informants because it helps to eliminate any witnesses that could testify against them. It helps them eliminate any liability of snitches that could perhaps taint their operation, that become too much of a hassle, or that just, are no longer useful and get in their way. At Brown's Hotel, Onslow County Jail, Onslow County Police Department, Onslow County Detention Center, excuse me. It is now a detention center. Is the biggest part of the human trafficking situation in this county. Only theirs is considered legal. It's a fucking joke. Guys, it's such a fucking joke. The reason they tried so hard for so many years to recruit me as one of their fucking snitches is because they're all fucking idiots. They have no fucking clue how to do their own fucking job. Most of them have never lived on the other side of the tracks. Most of them have never experienced life in this kind of world as it really fucking is. Which is why they have no fucking clue how to do their own job worth of shit. And they expect to prey on the weakest, most vulnerable individuals in this town. Force them into doing their job for them. And when they've used them all up, they kill them off and throw them the fuck away. The handful of young women that I met while I was in jail, they all had the same sad, sorry fucking story. They followed a guy here and he started selling drugs and he started pimping them out and keeping them high. It's fucking sick. It's beyond fucking sick. This is the reality of where I live. The people who are supposed to uphold our justice system, the people that we are supposed to be able to turn to and look for help, are the ringleaders behind 90% of it. And God forbid anybody in their sober right mind actually speak out against it. There are two things, only two things that I can expect to see come from this video. Either someone, somewhere, who fucking matters, will actually see it and care enough to do something about it, to make it fucking stop. To actually see justice fucking done and end this suffering. Or it's gonna piss a lot of people off, which I'm already pretty good at. And they're gonna make a martyr of me. They'll eliminate me just like they have any other junkie. They'll make me disappear. They'll cover it up, claim I went back to using drugs that I never did in the first place. Claim that I was the bad guy and I got what I deserved. Just like they have so many others. So many others who never deserved this life. Who never wanted to choose that kind of life. Worst case scenario, if that's what happens, then I won't have to suffer this shit anymore. And at least one day, my kids will know the truth. And my kids will know that I went out a hero. That I went out fighting. That I went out standing up for what was fucking right. That I didn't just lay down and shut up and fucking take it. As it is, I'm attempting to reach out, taking steps to get in contact with whoever I can, whoever matters, that can do something to stop this. Because somebody has to stop this. This is not okay, and it cannot continue. And I'm now convinced, if I had no clue before what my purpose was, I am now convinced that this is the biggest part of it. Somebody has to do something. Somebody has to stand up and say this is a fucking enough. Enough people have suffered, enough people have died, and enough women have been victimized by this fucked up good old boy backcountry fucking system. And I'm done. I'm done just laying down and taking it. So, I pray that this video goes viral. Pray that millions of you all over the world see it. And I pray that at least the one right person gets this message and is finally able to put a stop to this fucking madness. If you guys are still here with me, thank you. Thank you so much for hanging in this long, for listening to at least a small piece of my story. Please share this. It truly can save a life. I love you guys so much. Peace, love, and light. I'll see you all again soon.